Hi, my name is Olivia and this is my trip to the United States. In today's video, I'll continue exploring San Francisco and some of its top attractions, culminating with our visit to Alcatraz, once home to some of America's most notorious criminals. As if the trip couldn't get any better, we also witnessed the most beautiful sunset from the island. Good morning from day 2 in San Francisco. We are now just waiting to take the tram. Please excuse the fact that I called the cable car a tram a few times in this video. To our first attraction for the day, and that is the Painted Ladies. And then after that we're gonna go to Union Square and then walk all the way to the ferry building. It's a lovely day again, and this is where the tram turns, and it's right outside our hotel. And here you can see the Golden Gate Bridge and this beautiful park. There are actually 2 turntables in the city, one here at Fisherman's Wharf at Hyde and Beach Streets, and the other one downtown at the intersection of Powell and Market Streets. These are the only places in the world where cable cars are still turned manually. The reason for this is that San Francisco's cable cars don't have engines or steering. Instead, they're pulled along tracks by an underground cable system that runs beneath the streets. Once the cable car reaches the end of the line, it has to be turned around manually on a rotating platform to head back in the opposite direction. This unique system has been in place since 1870s, making it a true piece of living history. There is a long wait. We made it! Oh. Definitely not the most efficient form of transportation, but it's really fun to try once. There's a huge line if you want to take it from where it turns. However, if you just hop on it from any other stop, you won't have to wait in line. You might not have a seat though. But yeah, maybe it's not worth staying in the queue for ages when you could actually just hop on it from a random stop, and if you do want to see the turn, you can just go there, watch the turn, and then walk to the next stop and get on the tram. That'll take less time actually. We ended up close to Chinatown, so we're actually gonna go through Chinatown towards Union Square, so the plan changed a little bit because we were not sure where the tram was going. And what better way to experience Chinatown than by enjoying some great Chinese food. We have arrived in the center. So different. I mean, this is actually San Francisco. We just spent time in the bay. I don't think the locals are hanging out at Pier 39 too often. So nice! Such a lovely day. And this is Union Square, the most central part of San Francisco. We're now having a coffee in Union Square, and this is so nice. The weather is perfect, the atmosphere is lovely. This had more of a wow factor than I thought it would. As I said, I based my opinions on some random YouTube videos I watched, and some things I enjoyed more than I thought I would, and some things I liked less. Yeah, just give everything a try because sometimes you might get surprised. I'm loving this. I would definitely see myself living here in a high floor apartment. We then continued our walk towards the Painted Ladies, the next famous attraction on our list. So this is the more famous tram turn. We went to the other one. Now we have arrived at the park to see the painted ladies, our next top tourist attraction. These Victorian and Edwardian style houses, famous for their vibrant colors and ornate architecture, were built between the late 1800s and early 1900s. The term painted ladies actually refers to any Victorian house painted in 3 or more colors to highlight its architectural details, and it became popular after the 1978 book Painted Ladies: San Francisco's Resplendent Victorians. This is the most well-known row, located across from Alamo Square Park, with a stunning view of the city skyline in the background. This is definitely more about the view you get with the painted ladies, not just the houses. Yeah, it's a nice little spot. I enjoyed it for the 30 seconds we had available. We're on a tight schedule today because we have Alcatraz booked. And the next stop was the ferry building. We took a tram to the ferry building. And now I got 40 minutes in this area before we need to be at Pier 33 for our Alcatraz cruise booking. This is Market Street, the street that connects the ferry building to Union Square. And this Hyatt hotel behind me is what we initially wanted to book, but then we decided to change to something a bit more authentic, so we went with our hotel, which is right by the bay, Pier 39 and all the touristy area. The ferry building opened in 1898 and served as the city's main transportation hub before the construction of bridges. Its 245-foot clock tower, modeled after the Giralda Bell Tower in Seville, Spain, has become a defining feature in the skyline. Today, the ferry building is home to a vibrant marketplace, offering gourmet food, local products, and artisanal goods. It's also known for its popular farmers market, which draws locals and tourists. A fun fact is that before bridges connected San Francisco to the mainland, it was the second busiest transit terminal in the world after London's Charing Cross. Now we're finally walking towards our Alcatraz tour. We booked this around a month in advance just because we wanted to make sure that it wouldn't book out. It's probably the most popular tourist attraction here in San Francisco. And we booked the night tour. I think that's what it's called. You have the daytime tour and the nighttime tour as options. And even though people's advice was to book the first tour if you want it to be less crowded, what we were thinking is that if we book the 6 p.m. tour, then we might get to see the sunset when we come back. It would be really nice to see the sunset over the Golden Gate Bridge from the cruise and not actually pay specifically for a cruise to do that. So that's what we're hoping to do. From what I read, you can actually choose the ferry back. You don't have to take a specific ferry back. So then we can maybe choose the one that is at sunset. That is the plan. I don't know if it's gonna work. That's just my wishful thinking according to what I read on the internet. I'm loving this walk so much, and now we don't have that much time left. Tomorrow we're leaving, and I wish that instead of going to Sausalito, I would have spent more time in this area in San Francisco. I personally enjoy it more. I think maybe if you're more used to the city, you would want to escape into a smaller village and explore that. But if you're a tourist and if you don't have that much time, and especially if you're not American and maybe you're not used to seeing these cities, I think it's worth spending more time in San Francisco, and I think other attractions are more exciting for tourists. Also, I absolutely loved Pier 39. It's the most touristy and rather tacky place. For me, as a tourist who hasn't been to Vegas too many times, I absolutely loved it. And Matt's laughing at me. Still a lovely walk. We're walking towards Pier 33, where we're taking the ferry to Alcatraz. You see all these piers. This is 15. They all look pretty much the same. And then right behind us you have these stunning views of San Francisco with the palm trees. Absolutely lovely. Alcatraz Island is located about 1.25 miles or 2 kilometers off the coast of San Francisco and is primarily known for its infamous federal prison. The island was initially developed as a military fort in the mid-1800s due to its strategic location for protecting San Francisco Bay. The US Army used it as a military prison starting in the 1860s, holding Civil War prisoners and later Native American leaders during the Indian Wars. In 1934, Alcatraz was turned into a high-security federal penitentiary designed to house the most dangerous and notorious criminals, those considered too difficult to manage in other prisons. Alcatraz was often called the Rock due to its isolated and harsh environment. Some of the most infamous criminals in US history were housed here, including Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, also known as the Birdman of Alcatraz. Its isolated location, cold waters, and strong currents were seen as natural deterrents against escape attempts. Though the island was considered escape-proof, there were 14 known escape attempts involving 36 prisoners during its time as a federal prison. Most were caught, killed, or drowned in the bay. However, the most famous attempt occurred in 1962 when Frank Morris and the England brothers made an intricate plan to escape by digging holes in their cell walls with spoons and floating away on a makeshift raft. While their bodies were never found, it's unclear if they survived the escape or died in the waters. Life at Alcatraz was tough with strict rules. The prison's rigid structure was meant to deter inmates from future crime, with no luxuries allowed. Alcatraz's warden was famous for saying that the prison's sole purpose was to keep prisoners in check, not to rehabilitate them. Inmates were kept in tiny 5-by-9-foot cells, furnished only with a metal bed, a small sink, and a toilet, and spent most of their days in isolation. However, those who followed the rules had access to privileges like work, reading, and recreation time in the yard. Despite its reputation, the prison did have some unique privileges. Inmates could have their own musical instruments and could participate in prison band performances. The most well-behaved prisoners were even allowed to paint and play cards. The prison was operational for almost 30 years, closing in 1963 due to high costs and deteriorating infrastructure. By that time, it was too expensive to keep running compared to modern mainland prisons. Today, Alcatraz is part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area managed by the National Park Service. It's also home to a large number of birds, including western gulls, cormorants, and other seabirds, making the island a protected bird sanctuary. It has also been featured in many movies and TV shows, with The Rock being one of the most famous depictions of the island. Alcatraz is also home to the oldest operational lighthouse on the west coast, built in 1854, constructed to help ships navigate safely into San Francisco Bay. Definitely book a time for the Alcatraz tour to see the sunset from here, because it's absolutely beautiful. We only schedule coming here, but then you can take any ferry back, and you can schedule it in such a way that you can catch the sunset here. So that's the Golden Gate Bridge. This is a beautiful city. This is the lighthouse. So look at this. The Golden Gate Bridge, the sunset, the seagulls, and San Francisco. It does not get better than this. Although it's very, very cold. This keeps getting better, honestly. I am amazed by this. And I think because it's towards the evening, there are not that many people around. When I saw that packed ferry, I thought there were going to be so many people and you wouldn't be able to see anything. But no, the tour was so well done. There was space for everyone, you could take pictures, and nobody's really walking around, as you can tell. So right now it's just us here and the seagulls and Alcatraz, enjoying everything. And also because we watched the sunset on the island, we'll get to see the beautiful lights of San Francisco back. interesting. This new block opened, so we booked the night tour, so we have access to some different things. But because we booked before sunset, we got to enjoy the things that were open for the day tour and the things that are open for the night tour. And if you want to see Alcatraz at night, this is what it looks like. Good morning. It is 6 a.m. You can see the sunrise behind me. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge. Matt is a morning person. I'm not, and we were just having this conversation. How not of a morning person I am. Oh, there's the moon as well. See the moon?
Some days are better than others.
This is a very strong coffee. Today we're going to Miami. We're starting the day with a walk along Christie Fields to enjoy one last view of the Golden Gate. I was not expecting to see such a wild area in such a big city. San Francisco has it all. You know, it's a very large developed city, but at the same time you have space. It feels like you have space. You have these areas where you get to enjoy nature as well, and there are many trails after the Golden Gate. Really not a bad place to live. We don't really have enough time to get more into the local neighborhoods and try the things that are less touristy. I think this is as close as we get to non-touristy because they're just locals running this trail. Yeah, so far I loved it, and I kind of had to prioritize the touristy things because there's a reason they're famous and everyone is probably curious to find out what's worth visiting, what they like more, and so on. So I prioritized seeing all the tourist attractions.